Have you ever stopped for a moment and wondered whether the space around your front door could be silently shaping your life? Not just your comfort, but your financial destiny. Across cultures, religions, and generations, the entrance of a home has always been seen as more than just a doorway. It is the first point where energy, people, opportunities, and decisions enter your life. Now imagine this: worn-out shoes piled carelessly, broken objects you plan to fix someday, unopened bills, clutter you've grown used to seeing every day. What if these seemingly harmless items are doing more than taking up space? What if, without realizing it, they are reinforcing stress, blocking clarity, and symbolically welcoming hardship into your home? Today, millions of people across the world are struggling with poverty, hunger, and instability. Not because they are lazy or undeserving, but because environments, circumstances, and systems slowly trap them. From families in Gaza rationing food, to parents in Yemen choosing which child eats first, poverty often begins quietly before it becomes visible. And while these tragedies are not caused by superstition, they remind us that small, neglected things can grow into overwhelming realities. In this video, we will explore this powerful idea from three angles: the psychology of environment, real stories of hardship unfolding on earth right now, and deep spiritual wisdom from the Quran, which reminds us that both wealth and poverty are tests, and awareness is the first step toward change. This is not about fear. It's about consciousness. Before we dive deeper, pause for a moment and comment below. What is the very first object you see when you look at your front door right now? Your answer may reveal more than you think. Before we begin, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Share this video with your loved ones, because this knowledge can literally change a life. When people hear the phrase inviting poverty, many immediately think of superstition, fear, or exaggeration. But the truth is more subtle and more serious. Poverty rarely arrives overnight. It often enters slowly, quietly, through neglect, distraction, and the normalization of disorder. Before finances collapse, clarity collapses. Before opportunities disappear, awareness disappears. Your front door isn't just a physical space. Psychologically, it is a threshold. It is where you transition from the outside world into your private life. Every time you pass through it, your brain registers signals: order or chaos, intention or neglect, control or overwhelm. When clutter, broken items, or unresolved mess accumulate there, they quietly communicate something powerful to the mind. I am behind. I am overwhelmed. I will deal with this later. Over time, this mindset doesn't stay at the door. It spreads into decision-making, discipline, finances, and self-worth. This is not magic. It is behavioral conditioning. Now look at the world today. Right now, as this video is being watched, millions of families across Earth are trapped in poverty, not because they failed morally, but because small disruptions snowballed into systemic collapse. In conflict zones, a blocked road becomes a food shortage. A missed delivery becomes hunger. A delayed solution becomes a generation growing up without security. Poverty often begins with something temporary that was never resolved. The Quran repeatedly reminds us that hardship is not always a punishment. It is often a test of awareness, patience, responsibility, and action. And tests do not announce themselves loudly. They arrive quietly, disguised as something minor, something easy to ignore. This is why the question matters. Not because an object near your door magically steals wealth, but because neglect trains the soul to accept limitation as normal. And once limitation feels normal, change feels impossible. This video is not here to shame. It is here to wake us up, gently, honestly, and with wisdom. Pause for a moment and reflect. Then comment below. Do you believe poverty begins suddenly or gradually, through small ignored signs? Write suddenly or gradually and explain why. Your perspective may help someone else see what they've been overlooking. To understand why small ignored things matter, we must look at real lives, not theories. Right now, at this very moment, poverty is not an abstract idea. It is breathing, crying, and struggling across the world. In Gaza, parents wake up every morning with the same impossible question. How do I feed my children today? Homes stand without doors, without electricity, without security. What once began as temporary shortages have turned into long-term desperation. Aid delays, blocked passages, and damaged infrastructure didn't look catastrophic at first, but over time neglect compounded into hunger, trauma, and loss. In Yemen, a father named Ahmed, one of millions like him, sold his furniture piece by piece to buy food. First the table, then the chairs, then the doors themselves. Poverty didn't arrive the day war began. It crept in slowly, disguised as, "We'll manage tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. In Somalia, mothers walk for hours under the sun searching for water. Drought after drought taught communities to survive on less, until less became almost nothing. When scarcity becomes normal, people stop expecting abundance. And when expectations shrink, hope follows. These stories are not shared to frighten you, but to remind you how poverty often works. It doesn't knock loudly. It slips in when problems are postponed, when disorder is tolerated, when survival replaces vision. The lesson here is not that these people caused their suffering. Far from it. Their stories show how fragile stability is, and how easily ignored cracks can become collapsed foundations. The same principle, on a smaller scale, applies to our personal lives. When we normalize clutter, brokenness, and unresolved issues, even symbolically, we train ourselves to accept dysfunction as permanent. The Quran teaches us to reflect on the signs around us, not to judge others, but to protect our own awareness. Because once awareness is lost, decline feels invisible, until it becomes unbearable. Take a moment and comment below. Which of these stories touched you the most, and why? If you feel comfortable, also write one word that describes what you felt while listening. Sadness, fear, responsibility, gratitude, or awakening. Your words matter. Someone reading them may realize they are not alone. The Quran does not ignore the reality of poverty. It speaks to it with a unique depth, not only as a social issue, but as a spiritual test, a moral responsibility, and a moment of inner awakening. When we examine the stories of the prophets, we find a powerful message. Poverty is not always a punishment, and wealth is not always a blessing. One of the most striking examples is the story of Prophet Ayub, Job. Ayub was a man of deep faith, wealth, family, and social respect. But suddenly he lost everything: his wealth, his health, and his comfort. Yet the Quran praises his patience and trust in Allah. The message is clear. Poverty can test faith, but it does not define worth. Ayub's story reminds us that hardship is not proof of failure. It is a test of resilience, gratitude, and inner strength. But there is another side to the lesson, one that connects directly to our theme. When Ayub lost everything, he did not spiral into chaos. He did not allow despair to turn his heart bitter. He maintained dignity, gratitude, and focus. This is the opposite of what happens when we tolerate clutter, brokenness, or neglect. When our environment is messy, our mind becomes messy. When our mind becomes messy, our faith weakens. Not because faith is weak, but because clarity is lost. The Quran also teaches that wealth and poverty are both tests. Allah says that He gives wealth to whom He wills and withholds from whom He wills, to test who is grateful and who is patient. In this sense, our home is a microcosm of life. If we cannot manage our smallest spaces, our entrance, our clutter, our order, how can we expect to manage the larger tests of life? Another powerful lesson comes from the Quran's emphasis on sincerity and intention. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that actions are judged by intention. This means that the purpose behind your choices matters more than the choices themselves. If you keep your entrance clean, not because you fear poverty, but because you value peace and discipline, then your action becomes a form of worship. Today, in the world's poorest regions, people are not being tested by clutter. They are being tested by war, hunger, and injustice. But the Quran still teaches us to learn from their resilience. Their lives remind us to never take our comfort for granted. They remind us to be grateful for every small blessing, a door that closes properly, a meal that is not delayed, a roof that doesn't leak. And here is the key link. If poverty can enter a society through slow neglect, then wealth can also enter our lives through small, consistent acts of discipline. Just as a door opens when we turn the handle, abundance can enter when we open our hearts and minds to clarity, order, and responsibility. Now I want you to comment below. Which Quranic story or lesson touched you the most today? And why? Write your answer in one sentence. If you want, you can also share a personal reflection. What is one small habit you can change today to invite clarity and blessing? Your comment might be the beginning of someone else's awakening. Now that we've seen real stories of poverty and the spiritual lessons from the Quran, let's look at the science behind how our environment shapes our mindset and why something as simple as the entrance to your home matters. Psychologists and behavior experts agree that our surroundings influence our thoughts, decisions, and habits more than we realize. When your living space is cluttered, your brain is constantly processing visual noise. This may sound minor, but over time, it creates stress, anxiety, and a sense of being overwhelmed. The mind begins to associate the home with unfinished business, and the body responds accordingly. Fatigue, procrastination, and lack of motivation. A messy entrance can have a similar effect. Every time you come home, you're reminded of unfinished tasks, disorganization, or neglect. This repeated reminder trains the brain to accept that life is chaotic. When your brain accepts chaos as normal, it stops seeking structure. When structure fades, discipline fades. And when discipline fades, financial decisions become impulsive, inconsistent, and weak. This is why people often feel stuck, even when they have talent and resources. It's not that they lack ability. It's that their environment is quietly shaping their mindset into one of scarcity. Another key point is symbolic association. Human beings are meaning-making creatures. Objects near your door symbolize what you allow to enter your life. When the entrance is cluttered, it subconsciously communicates, I'm not ready, I'm not organized, I'm not in control. This does not mean you will suddenly become poor because you left a shoe by the door. It means that your habits, mindset, and energy become aligned with a limitation. And over time, that alignment can shape your reality. In the Quran, believers are encouraged to create a life of discipline, gratitude, and clarity. Order is not just cleanliness. It is a reflection of inner strength. When you treat your space with respect, you treat yourself with respect. So yes, the placement of objects near your door matters. Not as superstition, but as a daily practice of self-respect and mental clarity. Comment below with one answer. Do you feel your home environment affects your motivation and finances? Write, yes it does, or no it doesn't, and explain why in one sentence. Your honesty could help someone realize what they've been ignoring. Now we move from awareness to action. This part is the turning point, because knowledge without change is like a door that never opens. Let's talk about specific items that you should avoid placing near your door and why they matter. Remember, this is not about superstition. It is about symbolism, discipline, and mental clarity. 1. Broken shoes or old footwear. When shoes are piled up and broken, they symbolize a stopped journey. Every time you pass by them, your brain receives a reminder that you are stuck or delayed. In real life, delayed decisions and delayed action can lead to missed opportunities. 2. Unopened bills or papers. A pile of bills near the door represents unresolved responsibility. It creates anxiety and subconsciously teaches your mind that financial matters are overwhelming. When we avoid dealing with money, money avoids us. 3. Old boxes and unused items. Unused objects near the door represent unfinished cycles. They block the path of new blessings and new opportunities, not because objects have power, but because your environment reflects your mindset. 4. Broken furniture or damaged objects. Broken things near the entrance create a sense of decay. They signal neglect, and neglect becomes a habit. When you start accepting neglect in small things, you begin accepting it in bigger areas of life. 5. Trash or dirty items. A dirty environment invites stress and discomfort. When your entrance feels dirty, your heart feels heavy. Cleanliness is a form of respect, respect for yourself and for your future. 6. Piles of unsorted clothes. Clothes represent identity and self-image. When they are piled near the entrance, they communicate a loss of dignity and order. This affects self-esteem, and self-esteem affects your confidence to pursue success. 7. Damaged decorations or broken mirrors. Mirrors symbolize self-reflection. A broken mirror near the door can symbolize broken self-image. Not because of superstition, but because the mind constantly receives negative symbolism. Practical advice. If you see any of these items near your door, do not panic. Instead, do this. Remove one item today. Replace it with something positive. A clean mat, a plant, a lamp, or a simple decoration. Make it a habit. Daily 5 minutes of tidying. Comment below with one promise. I will remove from my entrance today. Write the item and the time you will do it. Example, I will remove the old box at 6 p.m. This small action can begin a powerful chain of change. Now that we've walked through real stories of poverty, Quranic wisdom, the psychology of environment, and practical steps, it's time to close with a message that truly matters. The door is more than an entrance. It is a threshold. It is the first moment you face when you return home. It is where you either step into peace or step into chaos. It is where you either welcome clarity or welcome neglect. If you've been watching closely, you already know the truth. The objects near your door don't cause poverty, but they do reflect your mindset. They reveal what you tolerate. They show whether you value discipline, respect, and clarity, or whether you accept disorder as normal. And when disorder becomes normal, it doesn't stay at the door. It spreads into your decisions, your relationships, your finances, and your future. That is why this message matters. This is not about fear. This is about awareness. This is about reclaiming your space and your life. So here is your challenge. Tonight, take 5 minutes to clear your entrance. Remove one item that represents neglect. Replace it with something simple that represents hope. A clean mat, a small plant, a lamp, or a sign of gratitude. And then watch what happens. Not magically, but gradually. Because change begins with small actions repeated daily. The Quran teaches us that every test is an opportunity. When we become aware of our habits, we are given the chance to change. If poverty can enter slowly, so can blessings. If disorder can grow quietly, so can discipline. If darkness can creep in, so can light. You have the power to decide what your door represents. Comment below with your promise. I will clear my entrance today at blank. And write one word describing what you feel right now. Hope, determined, inspired, awakened. If this video helped you, tag a friend who needs this reminder. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe and share.